Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a completely impartial anthropological journey through the evolution of black magic. We're going to trace this fascinating and honestly sometimes deeply unsettling line from the ancient, physical, demonic pacts you'd find in dusty old grimoires all the way to the modern, highly psychological concept of telepathic sabotage. We aren't here to judge, and we're definitely not taking sides. This is just a pure exploration of how humanity's approach to the dark arts has evolved over the centuries.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a rather chilling modern quote from occultist Dominic Andrews. He says, "I speak of pure psychic will projected like a weapon, implanting instructions that bloom inside a victim's consciousness like parasitic seeds." Think about that for a second. This shows exactly how the dark arts have evolved from the literal summoning of physical demons in some remote torchlit cave to something much more intimate and insidious, targeting the human mind itself.
So, we're going to structure this descent through the historical strata of the occult in 5 steps. We'll start by defining the dark arts, move into demons, jinn, and spirits, then look at the mechanics of transgression, followed by spells of desire and destruction, and finally, we'll hit modern psychic sabotage. Let's get to it. Section 1. Defining the dark arts. Natural versus diabolical. Before we can really track its evolution, we need to define our terms, right? Because the concept of magic has meant vastly different things depending on where and when you look in human history. The 18th century writer Daniel Defoe made a really crucial distinction that helps us out here. He divided magic into 2 distinct categories. First, you have honest or natural magic, which was essentially early science. We're talking the study of philosophy, astronomy, and nature's hidden powers by scholars and wise men. But in stark contrast, you have what he called diabolical magic. This is the realm of necromancy and witchcraft, and it's defined entirely by a practitioner's reliance on hidden, evil spirits to achieve supernatural effects.
But let's broaden this perspective cross-culturally for a minute. In Islamic theology, we see a very similar concept called sihr. It refers to an act with a mysterious or supernatural origin, specifically achieved by gaining proximity to shayateen, or devils, very often through transgressive impurities. So whether you're looking at Islamic sihr or the Greek concept of goetia, the shared historical theme is exactly the same, tapping into supernatural malice to somehow alter reality.
Going back to Defoe, he actually categorized 8 specific practitioners of these dark arts based on ancient texts. You've got your diviners and charmers all the way to witches and wizards. But the absolute pinnacle of this dark hierarchy, that was the necromancer. Defoe describes the necromancer not just as a spellcaster, but as the ultimate broker for the devil. They didn't just sit around predicting the future, they brought clients directly to the devil's shop, literally facilitating personal conferences between ordinary humans and infernal forces.
Section 2. Demons, jinn, and spirits, the infernal agents.
All right, let's shift our focus to the entities supposedly doing the actual heavy lifting here. Because historically speaking, the sorcerer never works alone. Across all our sources, we find this incredibly diverse cast of unseen helpers that magicians attempt to command. In the Arabic grimoires, you have entities like Maimun, the Red King of the Jinn. In Goetic traditions, there's Surgat, a demon specifically invoked for spells of pure malice. And then you have Germanic entities like kobolds, which local lore actually describes as the vengeful shadow remnants of ancient tribal child sacrifices, just waiting beyond the veil to strike.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the grimoires actually functioned. They were not just prayer books, they were highly technical manuals. Occultists used sigils, amulets, and magic squares essentially as a supernatural beeper system. The idea was that from the absolute safety of a consecrated magic circle, the operator would use these tools to directly page, bind, and command these reluctant, extremely dangerous spirits to do their bidding.
Section 3. The mechanics of transgression. Breaking taboos. Now, to actually get these spirits to listen to you, you had to prove yourself. Actualizing black magic across all cultures practically demands breaking societal taboos and reversing whatever is considered sacred. Just looking at the physical preparation required by European grimoires is completely exhausting. You couldn't just casually read a spell out loud, you had to undergo intense isolation and fasting. You had to personally slaughter, skin, and tan a lamb just to create the virgin parchment needed for the magical writings, and only then could you cast your protective circle. This visceral, intense physical preparation was mandatory just to safely start a ritual without being immediately attacked by the very forces you were trying to summon.
And the ingredients themselves? Deeply, deeply transgressive. To bind spirits to the operator's will, the infamous Arabic text, the Picatrix, calls for black dog blood and pig brands.
European grimoires require coffin nails pulled directly from graveyards. And in the left-hand path of the Tantric Kalo tradition, sorcerers would wrap funeral cinders in black cloth to throw into an enemy's home. It is this deliberate, shocking inversion of purity and holiness that allegedly generates the magical power.
Just listen to this chilling incantation known as the Curse of the Nails. Nails, I take you, so that you may serve to turn aside and cause evil to all persons whom I will. I'll just let that speak for itself. It perfectly emphasizes the raw malice, the incredibly specific, unwavering intent required to effectively curse a target in these traditions.
Section 4. Spells of Desire and Destruction. Raw Human Nature.
Now, what's really interesting here is when we look at the actual applications of these spells, it's truly alarming to see the exact same intent across completely different eras and cultures. These spells act as a mirror, reflecting universal human vulnerabilities. We're talking lust, revenge, and the deep innate fear of losing control. Whether it's the Islamic sihr of separation, where jinn are sent to cause isolation and headaches, an Egyptian red magic curse causing hemorrhage using dirt from a footprint, or an Arabic pick of tricks ritual using cat blood to cause disgust between lovers, the mechanism changes, sure, but the raw human desire to dominate and destroy, that remains exactly the same.
To truly grasp just how aggressive historical magic was, get a load of this ancient love spell from Altoki's Red Magic Grimoire. It explicitly commands the spirits to seize her and kindle a fire on her vagina that can only be extinguished by semen from the penis of N. When we talk about historical love spells, let's be real, we are not talking about romance. We are talking about aggressive, fundamentally non-consensual bindings of human will and biology.
Section 5. Modern Psychic Sabotage. The Mind as a Weapon.
So how does all of this dark tradition manifest today? Well, as our understanding of the world has evolved, black magic has essentially shifted from ancient demons to the weaponization of psychology, using things like telepathic thought loops and psychic assassination. Modern occultists, like Dominic Andrews, describe practices like the loop of longing. The goal is to insert a highly addictive thought loop right into a target's mind. A phrase like, "You want me, don't you? But you shouldn't. Again, again." They use black mirrors and nightshade oil to focus their intent. Notice how we've just juxtaposed the ancient Egyptian lust spell with this modern telepathic command? The intent to absolutely control and consume the target remains exactly the same, only the terminology has shifted from summoning external jinn to hacking internal psychology.
The crucial point is how modern practitioners adapt to their environment. In procedures like the Ritual of Collapse, modern occultists are quite literally using urban infrastructure to sever a target's mental connections. They unwrap circuit boxes, burn sigils, pour salt, and aggressively declare, "This line is dead. This voice is mine again." They're attempting to assert dominance over the unseen energetic webs of the modern city.
And it gets even more expansive than that. Andrews details this totally bizarre modern practice of broadcasting the dark arts on a mass scale. Occultists claim to embed demonic sigils into national electrical grids for widespread lethargy spells. They use public CCTV networks to embed subliminal paranoia, and even utilize decommissioned radio arrays to broadcast psychic sabotage straight into the ether. They view our entire modern infrastructure as a giant, energetic circuit board for their own malicious intent.
Which really builds to a rather unsettling question to end on. If modern black magic is simply the weaponization of psychology, if it's really about implanting addictive thought loops, utilizing subliminal influence, and exploiting human vulnerabilities, are we already casting spells on each other every single day? In our modern digital age, surrounded by algorithms, targeted advertising, and constant social manipulation, perhaps the true demons are simply the psychological manipulations we face and, frankly, inflict on a constant basis. Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.